Teia nahi baduzu, nerekin ezkondu. Goizetan lehen da bizi, jaiki biharko duzu. Ofetik laralarai, ofetik, ofetik laralarai, ofetik, gero gozabitera, ni zure ondotik.
It is pretty spectacular, man.
It's gorgeous land for sure.
But we're driving up here, and I have no idea if it was here or where the hell it was. But at some point, we just pull over. My dad just takes me out of the car. Felipe, Are, come here. And we just stand on the side of the road, just like pretty much like this, and just looking at it. And he's like, "You see that? It's the Ponderosa. That's where they make bonanza." And he's just looking at it like as if it's like, you know, I don't know, we're looking at paradise. And I'm what, 8, 9 years old? What do I know about anything? So to me, I don't even remember the view, what we saw. All I remember is him just like kind of looking out and just very, very moved by what he saw. And it's not like I liked it. It's not like I cared about Bonanza. But you know, it was for him. I guess this would be for most people, right? The epitome of America. This kind of wide open space with mountains and trees. But you know, for them it would have been like, this would have been what America was. But you know, we're American. We're born here. I don't think this means much to us. You know, I'm not sure that it could ever mean what it meant to the immigrants, the old timers, you know, to come to America. In a lot of ways, they're more American than we'll ever be. You know, this place is this America. You hear this from all the immigrants. You know, America's this weird Shangri-La. And then you know that the funny thing is they get here and it is nothing like that. You know, we were talking last night about the borders at the old sheep at the you know those remaining borders. Like, there was no American dream for those guys. They're alone in a boarding house somewhere. They'll die and a few people show up at their funeral and that's about it. You know, we don't hear those stories. You know, and I think for a lot of those guys, they couldn't go home. Going home would have been admitting failure. We had a Geronimo. You know, he was kind of like our bachelor, if you will. But he, you know, if it wasn't for our families, the Dahlias and the Duharts, he didn't have anybody in America. He had nobody but us. And every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, Geronimo was there. Every Saturday and Sunday at the restaurant, Geronimo was there with our family. You know, we were his family. And I don't know if I ever said 2 words to the man. That is the one thing, is you do get some guys, they have, they get friends who become like family. But, again, we don't hear those sad stories. No one tells those sad stories. No one's around to tell them, I guess. Those are the interesting stories to me. The stories of the guys who didn't make it. The stories of the guys the suicides. I mean, that was another thing you don't hear a lot about. But the suicides, there was a lot of them. When you're growing up, every year you'd hear about another guy. Poor guy. Poor guy, he was alcoholic. Poor guy, he was depressed. Poor guy. So many poor guys.
I always love the story with your dad where he's like laughing, this guy's such an asshole. Poor guy.
God damn idiot. He couldn't see. He think the guy is a bear. Poor guy, he died. Oh, we come to America, great country, we love it here. And they don't tell you about the guy who came with him, who hung himself in a boarding house. They don't tell you about the guy who drank himself to death. I mean, we had one of my dad's friends, he was just, we knew when we were kids, he was a hopeless alcoholic. You knew it. And again, no one's going to tell you his story. You'll get the story of the sheep herder who made it. And you guys have come to see this a lot, You guys have come to learn what Basque is. And it's not this romantic, it's not the placards in Gardnerville. Yeah, the simple, humble hill folk,
Yeah, it's like when everybody talks about somebody from the south or something. Oh, you're just the son of the soil or whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're the hillbillies of France, definitely. In France, we are hillbillies. We don't speak French.
Where the fuck?
America! You see this, children? The Ponderosa. That's where they made Bonanza.
And roll credits.
Names and dates are number one. Locations, probably close to second, but actually I think sex is second. In one form or another. You even mentions this grove's actually pretty subtle. A lot of the groves, though, you get into, it's all about sex. And again, because young men, they're out here by themselves for long periods of time, and what are they going to think about? Well, they think about sex. So a lot of times it's very, very nice stuff drawn, full figure women and things like that, but often it's just parts. Women's parts. So I've been looking at arborglyphs, tree carvings, since I was little, because we did go out and go hunting and fishing, and my mom, being Basque, whenever we would run onto these, she could translate and show dates and maybe possibly recognize a name or not recognize a name, something like that. So I've been looking at arborglyphs my entire life. Just never really, I guess, thought of them as being special until we got together, and I realized that, I guess not everybody sees these as just being something that, sheep herders did to amuse themselves. So they became more historically significant once I'd gotten around Richard and learned more of the historical value.
Like in the 60s, there was a federal law that cultural resources needed to be recorded and protected on public lands, and most of the archaeologists at that time kind of ignored arborglyphs for a number of factors. Some of them were, biases, ethnic bias. There were very few people actually out there researching or photographing arborglyphs. I think there were some efforts in the 1970s. Again, but the whole idea was, aren't these interesting doodles, but there was no real core effort to get to the depth of, what they convey. They had this treasure of history and ethnography on their lands, and they really needed to make a more dedicated effort to preserve it, understand it, and explore it.
Yeah, we've seen one 1896, right, and an 1897. But and part of the reason we're not seeing much later than much of that is again because of the age of the trees. And if they existed in this area, which they probably did, the trees that had them on them are gone.
Overall, these guys didn't expect, this kind of a treatment, that, people are coming up to actually, look at arborglyphs. They carved them again out of loneliness, despair, emotional release, venting their anger, their energies.
And I think they're always surprised because we talk to any carver that this is becoming important in any way, shape, or form. And they're always like, well, yeah. They'll kind of look around a little bit like, well, yeah, I carved.
So
Why? It's like,
So what? Like they're gonna accuse.
yeah. It's like, well, no, we go up and we try to explain them what we do, and usually they kind of laugh and look at us like, yeah, you guys are kind of nuts. Why would you do that? Well, we think it's important, and they're surprised that somebody finds this as being historically significant.
Yeah.
They're shocked. Why would you want to talk to me? I'm nobody. I didn't do anything important. It's like, well, no, but you're part of history. This is now part of history. This is part of the history of the West. The only thing about photography that doesn't get displayed is just like, when you were walking around here, you see it's not just one thing or one picture. It's that whole relationship that is going on. It's the call and response we were just talking about. It's the fact that there's not just one carving on a tree, but 15 carvings on a tree. But I think when you get a chance to see it out here or be able to see bark that's all the way around and see that it isn't just one thing, I think it has a lot more meaning to people. It's much more impressive. And if it's just pretty pictures and cool drawings and nifty stuff, that's not going to lead to the protection of the information or the groves or the area. It really is trying to get that significance in there as well.
Significance leads to acceptance.
You put too low.
Chris, could you tell us the name of that song you're playing?
Agua que calla sube.
It's a famous Basque song. I know, we've been hearing it before. Could you give us the words?
Agua que calla sube eskuarash mintzatzen, ongi pilotan eta oneskidatzatzen.
Those are the Basque words. Would you translate them for us?
Children, you must learn Basque to speak. to play polite and to dance properly.
Children, you must learn Basque to speak, to dance properly, to play pelot.